For almost a decade, one quiet trader in a plain suit, working from a desk with 20 other people in Tokyo, controlled roughly 5% of the entire world's copper supply. Nobody outside a tiny circle knew it. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't famous, and he didn't run a bank that could obviously fail. By the time anyone figured out what he'd actually been doing, his company was staring at a $2.6 billion hole. Global copper prices had been artificially warped for years, and regulators on 3 continents were trying to work out how a single trader had pulled it off without anyone noticing. Sumitomo Corporation is one of Japan's giant trading houses, the kind of sprawling company known in Japan as a sogo shosha that moves everything from steel to food to energy around the world, often behind the scenes and largely unknown outside the industry. Deep inside that empire sat a copper trading desk, and by the 1980s, that desk was run by a man named Yasuo Hamanaka. He was quiet, unglamorous, wore the same plain brown suits to the office every day, and worked alongside about 20 other traders at plain metal desks. But over the years, he became so dominant in the global copper market that traders everywhere just called him Mr. Copper. Hamanaka's specialty was copper futures on the London Metal Exchange, and over time he built up such enormous positions that people started calling him Mr. 5%, because that's roughly how much of the entire world's annual copper supply he personally controlled the trading of. He answered to almost no one on the ground. His regulators were overseas, his bosses trusted his track record, and inside Sumitomo, a star trader with a decade of profits behind him wasn't the kind of guy anyone wanted to second guess. Quick side note before we keep going. If you like this kind of deep dive breakdown, I put the actual scripts and research templates I use to build these up on Gumroad. Links in the description. Okay, back to the copper desk. Here's what he was actually doing. Hamanaka built up such a dominant position in copper futures and physical warehouse stockpiles that he could effectively squeeze the market, buying up enough contracts and physical supply that other traders who needed copper were forced to buy from him at prices he effectively controlled, rather than prices the open market would naturally have set. For years, that squeeze kept copper prices artificially high, and Sumitomo pocketed the difference between what copper actually costs to move and what Hamanaka's cornered market let them charge for it. It's a strategy sometimes called cornering a market, and it can work brilliantly for a surprisingly long time, right up until it doesn't. The problem is, cornering a market this size requires enormous amounts of cash to keep buying whenever the market pushed back, and when prices moved against him, Hamanaka started racking up real losses. Losses that went back, by some accounts, nearly a decade before anyone outside his desk knew they existed. Instead of reporting them, he did what a lot of people in his position have done before and since. He doubled down, took even bigger positions, and tried to trade his way back out of the hole rather than admit, even privately, that it existed. To keep the losses hidden, Hamanaka forged trading documents and set up unauthorized accounts with outside brokers, including one at Merrill Lynch, to disguise what his real positions actually looked like on paper. He wasn't doing this entirely alone. The scheme required cooperation from people outside Sumitomo who were willing to help paper over the gaps, whether they fully understood what they were enabling or not. For roughly 10 years, it worked well enough that Sumitomo's own senior management had no real idea how deep the hole had gotten, and Hamanaka's reputation as the company's most profitable trader made almost nobody want to look too closely. The first real crack showed up not in Tokyo, but in the United States. American regulators noticed something strange. Copper prices on the London Exchange were trading unusually high compared to the equivalent US market, the kind of gap that shouldn't exist unless someone was distorting the London side artificially. In 1995, the US Commodity Futures Trading Commission opened an investigation, and international regulators started comparing notes for the first time. Back in Tokyo, an internal audit finally caught what years of regulators hadn't. irregularities in bank statements tied to Hamanaka's trading that simply didn't add up no matter how they were explained. On June 13, 1996, Sumitomo fired him and went public, announcing $1.8 billion in losses from unauthorized trading. The company insisted in its own public statement that these were transactions made solely by Hamanaka himself, one man acting alone, they said, quietly building and hiding these positions for the better part of a decade. It got worse. By September of 1996, as investigators dug deeper into a decade of hidden trades, Sumitomo revised the total losses upward to $2.6 billion. At the time, one of the largest trading losses in financial history, in the same league as some of the biggest rogue trading disasters banking had ever seen. Copper prices tumbled on markets around the world as the scale of the manipulation became clear, wiping out value for anyone who'd been trading on the assumption those prices reflected real supply and demand. Regulators in the US, the UK, and Japan all opened their own investigations into exactly how it had gone on for so long without anyone catching it. Hamanaka was arrested that October on fraud and forgery charges, and unlike a lot of the executives we've covered on this channel, this time somebody actually went to prison. In 1998, he was sentenced to 8 years for fraud. He served most of it, released in July of 2005, about a year early. It's a rare case in this genre where the person at the center of the story didn't just pay a fine and walk away. Sumitomo itself didn't escape clean either. In 1998, U.S. regulators fined the company $150 million. At the time, the largest penalty the agency had ever handed out, for manipulating the copper market, and Sumitomo settled without formally admitting or denying the findings. A major Wall Street bank that had helped facilitate some of Hamanaka's trades got fined roughly $25 million of its own, and Sumitomo, in turn, went after several of the banks it accused of helping fund his unauthorized positions in the first place, arguing they should have known something was badly wrong long before regulators ever showed up. What makes Sumitomo different from a lot of the stories on this channel is scale, in the strangest possible sense. One trader, working with almost no outside oversight, moved a global commodity market for nearly 10 years before anyone caught him. It took a random pricing quirk between two exchanges on opposite sides of the planet to finally expose it. Sumitomo trusted a decade of profits over asking hard questions, and by the time they got their answer, the bill had already reached $2.6 billion.